Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. A lot of people are seeking perfection, and perfection is not a destination, it's a journey. And so, if we are waiting until the perfect moment, guess what will never come?
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Iconic Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Chaitra Vedulapalli, President of Women in Cloud. This podcast is for founders, executives, investors, and changemakers who are done playing small and ready to lead movements that actually matter. Each week, we don't just talk about big ideas, we unpack lived experiences, pivotal moments, and real systems behind leadership that democratize access and creates lasting impact. Because here's what I believe: prosperity should be the default, not the exception. So, together, we are here to democratize intelligence, elevate how you lead, and help shape the next 50 years of inclusive innovation. So, let's begin. So, today, I'm joined by Dexter Hardy, founder, president, and chief technology officer at Ntegral. And if you care about how hyperscaler marketplaces are transforming the way software companies scale and deliver value, this conversation is for you. Dexter Hardy is a technology executive, entrepreneur, and strategic advisor with more than 20 years of experience in information technology, consulting, and data transformation across multiple industries. He founded Spark by Integral to help independent software vendors, also called as ISVs, and software companies to scale through secure cloud solutions and repeatable delivery system. Now, here's what matters. Dexter recognized early that the hyperscaler marketplaces weren't just the distribution channel, they were the engines of economic access and transformation. So, by re architecting Integral around marketplace first principles, he built systems that enable secure, repeatable publishing of their offers and created frameworks that help others avoid the pitfalls of trial and error in cloud adoption. So, what pulled me into this conversation isn't what Dexter built, it's how he carried the weight of scale, influence, and legacy as it grew. So, let's rewind to the moment it all started. With that, welcome, Dexter.
Hey, Chartra, it's a pleasure as always to be here.
I'm
Um,
so excited to have you here, Dexter.
yeah, likewise.
Yep,
So yeah, it's always a pleasure to be here, and thanks for that warm-hearted introduction for sure.
absolutely. Dexter, before we all get into the frameworks, was there a moment that changed how you lead as an entrepreneur? Where were you? What was actually happening around you? And what experience in your entrepreneur journey changed that definition of your leadership?
Okay, so thanks for that. And Integral is founded here in Atlanta, Georgia. We started back in 2002, and we started out our journey as a systems integrator. And there are quite a few systems integrators when you look at the big three or big four, whichever the number is now, Accenture, IBM. And we pivoted our business model to be a ISV in during the time of COVID. So in 2020, we pivoted. And to get to the leadership, and what I saw there was people needed to adopt the cloud. People needed to get into these hyperscaler environments just to continue to exist as a business. And so one of the things that you will always hear me say, and it was part of our beginning, was people, technology, and change. And it always starts with the people. And so, what I'll start and begin with and end with is the following. We always build our systems around enabling people. Technology is just an enabler. Obviously, AI now is the latest thing. And the one thing that you can always count on is change. With that triad of things, from a leadership perspective, one of the things that I focus on is always trying to make the best decision for my team, for the company, all up. Those are never going to be easy decisions. But what I always look back is become the change you seek. So don't go out into the world looking for to be, hey, let's put this group together and reorganize around a movement. Become the movement. If you look in the mirror and see, just reflect on what you have. And so that's where I look at leadership is reflecting on ourselves as a company and becoming that change. How do we adopt AI in a meaningful way? How do we lead the marketplace and tell other people, hey, here's how you advance and grow in marketplace? And then last but not least, providing a legacy for economic empowerment for not just my team, but other teams as well.
I love it, Dexter. But I want to go back is before you were building a system integration company, how did you get to that place? Did you study engineering and then you got into tech? Give me the past a little bit.
Okay, so if I go back to when dinosaurs roamed the earth,
I love it.
I actually wanted to be a rocket scientist.
Oh, wow.
And I was starting off my journey as an aerospace engineer and wanted to build rockets and what have you. But again, that was quite some time ago. And what I found in that was the internet was this burgeoning thing. It was ARPANET at the time. So sitting in front of that computer, sitting in the lab with the Sun One systems doing all
Mhm.
of this research and coding in there. What I found that I actually gravitated towards engineering and problem solving. One of the things that I really enjoy about engineering is it's applied learning. You can look at what we do in anything that we do. And it's really more so not do you have the knowledge, but how can you apply the knowledge? So that's what really got me started in my journey, or that was the thing that I really leaned into was how do I apply the things that I'm learning? And then I started my career with IBM. I worked at Accenture. And so that gave me the rigor around building enterprise systems, working in large teams, understanding the rigor that is required in order to build things at scale, look at teams that span nationally and internationally. And then what is the part that I play in that, right? As a technical architect, everyone was pretty much depending on the understanding of how systems work together. How do you apply all of those integration points to finalize and come up with a system? And that's where it started. And when I broke out of that senior technical architect role at Accenture. I don't even think Bell South even exists anymore. It was one of the AT, it was AT&T now. So again, going back in time. But yeah, leaving that role, starting out first as an independent consultant. My specialty was Oracle implementations, so doing Java-based development and putting systems together, having the Oracle systems talk uniquely across different things. And we didn't have all the integrations that we have now, but I'll throw out words like Corba and, just spawning other services to run. So, anyone who's developing now, and we have JSON and all of these different APIs that we can use that really didn't exist when I started the journey. But what I'll say is that thirst for always being on the cutting edge, understanding again how to apply. That's what got me into forming Integral. And again, our tagline from day one was people, technology, change, because at the end of the day, what I saw as the missing piece was technology will always evolve, it will always move. And if it's not used to enable people, then what is the purpose, right? It needs to add value to the people who use it, right? So if you look at, or at that time it was Oracle, you look at AI is the talk of the town now. How can AI enable people? It's not what AI can do in and of itself, but how does AI turn you into a better version of yourself? What does it do to help a company monetize, scale, grow? And so that's the evolution of Integral. Integral started out literally in the basement of my home, like most other startups. One guy and a computer, and now we've grown into what we are today.
Thank you for sharing that. From doing rocket engineering to going into enterprise companies to having one person, one laptop, and building a company. It's amazing. And I think, Dexter, when you look forward after the Armistice launch and space tech coming, you are at the cutting edge of the technology. So I'm pretty excited what you are going to be doing. When did you realize, as you're going through this journey, is it's not just about delivering a system, but it's creating access for the entire ecosystem? When did that idea spark for you?
So that idea came as part of our journey as pivoting from an SI to an ISV in 2020. There were a lot of programs, a lot of accelerator programs that were out there, and they were focused on more systems integrators, or I would say status quo type companies. And it wasn't really leaning into how do you build and deploy in hyperscalers. And
Mhm.
so my aha moment was after walking in the desert alone and seeing the different mirages of, I think someone can help me over here. And you walk over there and there's nothing there. I, the aha moment was, if it doesn't exist, why not create it? Because I had gone through, I always tell people I could write a PhD thesis on marketplace, but understanding how they work, understand how to execute in it, understanding all of the intricacies of what the solutions are and how to operationalize those. But the aha moment really is not about us as a company, but how can we empower other companies to do it as well? So we went through it, learned, did our lessons learned, came out on the other side, and yes, we're a successful company. But then how do we turn around and pull other companies through? That is where I would say our advisory services develop from is I know what it's like to go through it and not have a path. That's a very arduous journey at best. And a lot of companies will try that, embark on it, and give up. And what I'm saying with our Spark by Integral organization, where we do marketplace onboarding, marketplace as a service, listing optimizations, we really want to see you be successful. And so our Again, become the change you seek. One, we did it ourselves. So that's our
Mhm.
proof point. We were customer zero in building out our methodology. But then now we're turning back and saying, okay, we can help you be successful too. And then that economic impact goes beyond just our company, Integral, the doors that we have as Integral, or the span that we have as Integral, but it ripples out into the ecosystem around us as well.
Dexter, I will always love working with people who have gone through the path and they've identified what it takes to do it, because then you don't have to really understand the nuts and bolts of how it is done. So I'm so glad
Yeah.
that not only you have gone through it and seen all the mirages, and now you know exactly where the real water hole is, right? And we can take you there. So when you step back, what impact have you created that means the most to you?
The impact that means the most to me, we're working with a marketing agency right now as part of an initiative, and part of the research that they did on us was he actually interviewed other people about me, about the company, and the one thing that came back to me from him, and it was his feedback, was I've interviewed people, I pushed them, and they could say nothing bad about you. And I was like, yeah, maybe doing something right. And again, it's not about that was the aha moment because if you're out trying to do the right thing all the time, doesn't mean that you're not going to have people who you're going to have disagreements. There's not things that aren't going to align, but the intent of the person is felt and is known. And every day I wake up on purpose and with a purpose. And every night I go to sleep knowing that at the end of the day, I did the right thing. People may not agree with the situation or the solutions that I put out there or the things that I did, but I can sleep well knowing that I did right by them.
Dexter, say thank you to the research guy because he is spot on. And I think I attest to the same feeling is you show up, you are there for the community, you make a huge difference for even every leader who you touch. They know your presence makes a huge difference because you're there to show up and provide what they need to move the purpose forward. I can personally attest to that one.
Awesome.
Yeah. When it comes to the leadership framework, I want to know how you think, Dexter. Do you have a personal framework or philosophy that guides your decision when the stakes are high?
So, yes, absolutely. I have a couple that I use, and I go into that bag pretty frequently. The first one is don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And I'll explain that. I'm sure my team's lot would chuckle when they hear this, but a lot of people are seeking perfection. And perfection is not a destination, it's a journey. And so if we are waiting until the perfect moment, guess what will never come?
Mhm.
Perfect moment. So if
Yeah.
it's good, let's those two things are on the same team. So let's don't let perfect be the enemy of good. So that's one philosophy that I always use with my team and try to go to when things get hard or when we're trying to make a decision. And then the other one is start, stop, continue. I'll use everyone has GPS, they have navigation, but sometimes navigation will tell you to go the wrong way. Sometimes the best thing to do is if you know you're headed the wrong way, is to stop,
Mhm.
turn around and go in the other direction.
Mhm.
Don't continue down a path if you know it's wrong. And so as a leader, a lot of people will just continue to follow GPS just because it says, yeah, we need to keep going down this path, knowing that it's not the right path. So that's always a hard thing to do,
Mhm.
especially in the business world, is to admit that you're going in the wrong directions or things are headed in the wrong direction. But again, that holistic thing of, hey, we started, we're on this journey, maybe we need to stop
Mhm.
where we're or pause because sometimes you need to let things pass before you go. And then the last piece is to continue. So anything that's working for you, the things or ideas that are helping you along your journey, continue doing those. Celebrate it because, it is a journey. It's not once you arrive to what you consider to be your goal, obviously a leader is going to set, hey, we have to set another North Star and we have to go out and do this all over again. Like I said, it's more of a journey and not a destination.
Agreed. And all these decision frameworks, Dexter, was it shaped more by success or by failure? And do you have an example for people to see how you apply it?
Okay. Listen to TEDx, TED Talks and TEDx speakers, and failure only happens if you stop.
Oh,
So I would say we either win or we learn. In a more open-hearted scenario, I always use this analogy. When a baby is learning to walk or run, they don't look at the number of times they fail and scrape their
mhm.
knee. They look to the enjoyment of running and laughing and doing the things. If they focused on how many times they fell down, none of us would be walking right now. So I say that to say business is the exact same way. Falling down is part of the process to get you to your ultimate journey. And so what I do within these frameworks is falling, when you said the failure, I say falling down or having that obstacle in your way is just part of the process. And it's up to us to get up and enjoy the journey that we're on.
I'm 100% with you on the journey is to get things done rather than focusing on the perfection because
Yep,
perfection is just a point of view from one person to another and it changes.
absolutely.
Yeah. Dexter, as you are talking about it, there's a lot of invisible labor nobody gets to see. And I recently read your post on LinkedIn. Being a founder will test you in ways nothing else does. Not just your ideas, but your patience, your identity, and resilience. And these are the moments when the pressure feels constant, when the decisions are stacking up, responsibility getting heavier, and expectations from everyone. It really resonated with me that when I read that. So we know that most of the leadership work is invisible. What part of your leadership journey has required the most effort that others barely notice?
So it's the everyday having a purpose. It's the, I don't know, even if I was sick, I never had a sick day. Like the ability to self-generate the energy required to
Mhm,
keep the vision alive. A lot of
mhm,
people miss that. You, as an employee, you come into work and you have your function within the job and you do your thing and you have sick leave, you have time off, you do your, and that's fine. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I'm always thinking 3 to 6 months ahead. And what happens if there's a rainy day? What happens if the market changes? What happens if people get sick or whatever? All of the things you have to take all of that into consideration, and it weighs heavily on founders. And what I said in that post is that same pressure could actually crush you. But if you're, depends on what you're made of, though. And it
mhm.
can also, the same pressure that will crush and make turn turn something to ashes is the same thing that turns things into brilliant diamonds. So I really want people to focus on what are they made of, look inwardly to say, this is bigger than me. It's not about me per se, but I definitely want people to know that being a founder is not for the faint of heart, for sure. A lot of people want what they say is stability. I want to be able to do everything, and I'll transfer this to I asked my one of my sons about was it better to be a child or to be an adult? And he was like, two of them said child, one said adult. And I scratched my head and he was like, I said, so why? Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think it's better to be an adult? You get to do whatever you want. And I said, that's an interesting perspective because as an adult, you actually have to answer to everyone when you're an adult, including your kids. And I say that same thing about being the owner of a company. And I say this the way that I lead. I care about all of my employees. And so they become part of an extension of me. So now I am worried about what happens to them or how is things going to impact them. And so you then become responsible. And in my instance, is responsible for not just your own internal care, but everyone that you touch and serve.
Dexter, this one will resonate with every entrepreneur who's listening, including me, because I know the pressure is always on. You hardly have a day off, right? You can, and you have to find a solitude to really think how to lead effectively when the days are good or the days are bad, right? So you just have to figure it out. Is there something that you do it consistently that nobody talks about, but really drives your impact?
The thing that I try to do as a leader is to let everyone have an opinion.
Mhm.
I Everyone needs to have their voice heard. And I know that sounds really weird in today's society, and I'm not going to get into that. But even if we decide to go in a different direction, or even if I have my mind made up, it's always worthwhile to hear the opinion of someone else because life is about experiences. And when you have a diverse work pool, when you have other people who've experienced different things, it's always of value. Even if you're like, nope, that's not where we're going, it's worth to pause, take a moment, listen to what is being said, and then make a decision based on that. And so I really try to build a scenario where it's truly inclusive, not just a diverse workspace, but let's hear. You have an idea, let's present it. I want to hear what you're thinking because I, the one thing that I've learned in life is that I don't know everything. I consider myself to be pretty smart. I didn't say this part about my education earlier. I was actually in the PhD program for materials engineering. So I consider myself to be a little bit smarter than just average, but I also know that I don't know everything. And and listening without talking is the part that I try as a leader because a lot of people don't actively listen. So I think that really is one of the things as a leader I really lean into and try to build out in an organization because a lot of people don't feel heard. Yeah.
Dexter, as you were talking through it, I want to pause for a moment, but also double click on the Spark by Integral because I'm curious because you came from SI, then you became an ISV, and now you're building a whole ecosystem driven solution. How did you had to rethink a lot of the traditional consulting models and internal process? What did it take for you and your team? Because it is something so unique and new, and most of the world is still are not ready for this transformation. So what did it take for you and your team to go through that journey?
Oh boy.
That
Uh,
says it
my,
all.
my wonderful team.
Yeah.
I would say being an entrepreneur is you have to know and understand how to pivot.
Mhm.
It's what I was saying before, looking at the market, looking at what's happening, and looking at what's coming, not just what's happening right now. I'll use the pivot to become the ISV from an S. COVID, you could go outside and it was absolutely quiet. People never thought that there did not seem to be an end to the isolation and what we're doing. What had to happen? Companies had to still figure out how to do what they're doing. People still had to go to work. And so our aha moment then was, hey, we got to help people move stuff to the cloud because the cloud gives you the ability to work from anywhere. So that was one aha moment. Now, when we're looking at AI and marketplaces and the 300 billion or so that companies have committed to spend in marketplace, I started seeing the writing on the wall. It's like how, if you're not in marketplace, if you are an organization and you don't have the ability to list in marketplace, guess who's not going to be sitting at that $300 billion table?
Mhm.
And so for me, it's really getting in front of it, seeing that there's an opportunity that is beginning, creating a repeatable process around it. Again, I'm an engineer at heart. You figure out the path, you make it repeatable, and then you scale it. And I've seen people who can make the best cake from scratch. And you ask them for a recipe, they're like, I can't even tell you what I did, but it's absolutely beautiful. And then there's the people who have the cakes that are repeatable and they give you the measurements, they give you the stuff. And so what we're doing is the first one that we made it was made with love, like made from our heart. But then going back and my employees will say, Dexter's laboratory, I figure out how to get the process and make it repeatable. So
Oh,
yeah, that's the journey is really understanding the pivot, understanding what's coming, not just what's happening, but then realizing when you're on the forefront of an opportunity, taking inspired action. A lot of people don't, they see it, but they don't take the action that's required.
absolutely. So how do you balance giving teams the autonomy while keeping the shared standards? What do you do with them?
So that's an ongoing discussion with my team. To be honest with you, if I'm being transparent, a lot of what we do, you'll hear the term frontier firm being
Mhm.
tossed around out there. I don't know why they don't have a badge for software development companies that would be frontier firms. But one of the things that we're doing internally to help us scale is we leverage AI with
Mhm.
people. So we're training our models, we're training our custom GPTs to do things, but we're also training our employees to understand the underlying reason as to why the GPT is creating what it's doing. And
Mhm.
with that, we're able to do things at scale that other companies really can't do. And you're going to hear this theme. I guess you've heard it over and over again, but it's people, technology, change, right? It's the
Mhm.
people that we have, getting them trained up on what they're doing, how to do it, and then embedding into that technology what is the outcome that we're trying to get, and then combining those two to create the superpower of both the human aspect and the IT aspect at scale.
Yeah, I love it that you're thinking from a change, you're thinking about people in the loop. Dexter, let's go a little deeper. That is human in the loop governance piece for a frontier. What does that look like in your mind? Just describe it so that people who are listening, they're like, oh, that's what it means.
Okay, so the governance is I said this a couple of weeks ago. There's a difference between what you can do and what you should do. And a lot of people don't consider making consideration for the people aspect in the latter part of that or in the beginning part. Can you completely automate your business and move people out of it? Sure. At this point, you can go in and do a lot of things autonomously. Should you do that? I'll give you an example. How many people have called into you name it company and they get the agent and the agent walks you're talking to, you're speaking with an agent and you're like, you're hitting nine, you're pressing zero. I'm like, I wanted to speak to a person who understands. I just want to hear the human connection on the other side. I want to feel like I'm not a bot, so I want to speak to someone who can actually experience the feeling of what I'm having in that moment. And when you start experiencing stuff like that, I really think companies are missing out on. Yes, you can do a whole bunch of stuff with AI. And there's a lot of things where a person with AI, you could still accomplish the same goal. I really think, and that's what my goal is to continue to lean into, always having a human first element with what we're doing because AI is great and you can make AI sound like you. There's something on another plane that doesn't happen when you're working with a computer.
Yeah, I love the thought frame on can you or should you? That's a great way to look at AI when it comes to governance. Yes, we can automate everything, but should you be automating? Because it may actually not generate the results that you're thinking about it should generate. So thanks, Dexter, for explaining that. I think it will open a lot of people's mind as they're listening to this conversation. I want to get to the legacy topic because you did talk about that. So, when you think about legacy, what systems or mindset or access pathway do you hope long after you have left the room? And what does that look like for you?
Okay. From a legacy standpoint, I don't want to sound callous or anything, but Lou Holtz had a speech that I was listening to or referred back to, and he was saying that if you think you're super important, put your hands in a pail of water, put both your hands in there, clasp them together, and then snatch your hand out of that bucket of water and see how big of a hole you leave. And there are people who be like, oh my God, that's so callous. And I'm like, it's not really callous. It's not about the hole that you leave. It's about how you touch everyone else. So when you put your hands in that water, water may come out of the pail. It's because your presence is there. Your presence can last longer than your physical being. And a lot of my teams say that they're Dexterisms or things that I say all the time. That's the part that is part of your legacy. What have you done to impact somebody else's life so that when they put their hands in that bucket of water, it is referring back to the presence that you presented them while you were with them. And I know that this goes beyond just business in general. It's really a mindset change around legacy it is not just a direct what did I do for you? It's what was your presence in that person's life? Did you show, to your point, did you show up? When you showed up, how did that impact them and how did it change the trajectory of their life? If you provided some type of economic access for them, did they pay it forward? Did they see that you made a sacrifice on your behalf for the greater good? And now, if someone else is sacrificing for the greater good, that's the best legacy that you can have, right? Is someone who sees that you're working for something bigger than yourself and that it is for a collective good.
Dexter, we feel your presence wherever you go. And we talked about your origin, your movement, your paradigm shifting ideas, and your legacy. Is there a question I should have asked, but I didn't ask you?
I think the question you should have asked me that you didn't ask is why why does Spark by Integral, why is Spark by Integral different from a lot of the other enablers?
Yeah.
And if you go out there, there are tons of companies that can deploy your solution on Marketplace. And I would say that the answer to that is what makes us different is it goes back to the origin story. We walk the walk, we've been through the journey, and we are still on that journey. And what
Mm,
we're doing is every lesson learned that we have, we're providing that out to other companies so that they don't have to hit their head on the proverbial wall with regard to going through things. The second piece is a lot of people talk about time to market, and it's really about time to money because you can be in market, and if you're not making money, it's like, so what? Right? So the other piece that we're focused on with our Spark by Integral is not just, hey, can you be in marketplace, but can you effectively have a presence in marketplace that is generating income for you?
mhm,
So it's enablement at a different level. So we're like I said, we're not focused on just a moment in time. We're looking at the bigger picture, which is how does that drive revenue? How does that grow your organization? How does that change your organization? Because if you're looking at what the marketplace gives you, it's a 24-hour sales guy that is
mhm,
always on.
mhm.
And then last but not least, how are you adding value to your customers? Because again, people are buying from people, even in the hyperscaler marketplace. So what is your value? What's your value proposition? And then how are you reaching those customers? Have you identified them? And what impact are you having on their lives? So I think that's the piece that I would say.
I agree, Dexter, is time to money is such a critical piece. With that, I want to have you share is when leaders are listening, what will it separate leaders who are grounded in current moment and those who are not grounded? What are the things they need to make changes so that the time to money is accelerated for them? What are the kind of principles or strategies they should be thinking?
Principles and strategies, I would say, is all up. Look at the old paradigm of create the business model, build it out. Let's work this long evolution of something. With AI, that's happening very fast. And so I think it's an adoption of understanding the current market and what's there, but being able to be a true visionary and see where the true opportunity is. Don't just build something just because, again, just because you can build it, you should be building. Have you identified something that is niche? As in this current market, what we'll see right now is AI is taking front and center stage. But what is the ecological impact of using AI? I know we're in a plentiful universe and resources are vast, but in its current form, AI uses a lot of resources. And so, what is the impact of overusing AI? Can you do it? Should you do it? Those are the questions that we all have. And then looking at it from a humanitarian standpoint, what are we causing? Again, I leverage AI, and that's a battle that I have as well. Like, how often should we do it? How much should we use it? And what leaders need to think about is, well, what is the overall impact on everyone around us? Because we're all part of the same ecosystem. We're all part of this until otherwise we all live on this planet. And so, how do we be good stewards of what we have?
And Dexter, thank you for sharing your insights and people who are listening this podcast decade from now. What story do you hope Iconic Leadership Podcast tells about you?
Iconic, I think the best thing that could ever be said about me was I was passionate about people. I absolutely love technology. And the one thing that I hope never changes is the impact of my presence being in the different groups that are there. Again, technology is going to change, people are going to change, but what was the presence? What was the laughter? What was the human connection points that are there? So if this podcast is put out years into the future, so what was his presence? What were the stories? What were the Dexterisms that kind of still live on?
And Dexter, you do have a Midas touch. And thank you for sharing your stories, your framework, and the real work behind them. So before we close, where can our listeners connect with you or support your work?
So for supporting our work, if you go to app.spark.integral.com, they can download the app. It's basically a masterclass on all things hyperscaler marketplace. You can find our solutions in Microsoft Marketplace. Just go to marketplace.microsoft.com, put Integral in the search, and that's with an Ntegral, and you'll get a litany of our solutions there. So supporting us there will always, spending your money with us will always support. And then last but not least, I always want to end with this is supporting us. We always look to give back to the community. That's one of the things that I grew up with is really understanding the power of community and giving back to people who haven't had the opportunity to step forward yet. And that will always be something that I look to do as we continue to grow as an organization.
Thank you, Dexter. You are iconic. And people who are listening, please reach out to him on LinkedIn too. He's easily accessible. And if today's conversation resonated, subscribe to the Iconic Leadership Podcast. You can also explore the Iconic Leadership Assessment, watch the Icons movie, and join the waitlist for our upcoming book. If this episode added value, here's a quick favor. Take a screenshot, tag me, tag Dexter, share it. It helps us understand what's landing and we can create more for you. And if someone in your life is at a turning point, building something spectacular and needs this message, please send this episode to them. And before you go, a quick thank you for the first 10 listeners will be entered into a draw to receive a free copy of the Iconic Leadership book during the launch week. I'm Chaitra Vedalapalli. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, when we lead with purpose, we unlock prosperity for all. Thank you, everyone.